I'm here with the history guy, and today we're going to go inside World War II for some hidden truths about the war that you probably never knew. Coming up, did you know that during the Battle of Britain, the British were winning? That's right. By the end of August 1940, after the worst of the fighting, the British had shot down nearly 2,000 German planes for the loss of only 933 British aircraft. But then something happened that turned the tide. The Germans brought in new pilots from the Luftwaffe, men who had more experience flying and fighting than the young British pilots, and it wasn't long before the British were on the defensive. By October, they were barely managing to keep their heads above water, and by November, they were losing more planes than they could replace. What about this one? Do you know what Churchill's worst nightmare was? No, it wasn't the threat of invasion by the Germans, nor was it the possibility that the British Empire would collapse. His worst fear was actually that the war would end in a stalemate, much like the war in France had ended in 1914. In a public address in 1940, he warned that if the war should turn into a war of position, then there would be terrible losses of life, and the end result would not justify the sacrifice. Okay, how about this one? Do you know who invented the atomic bomb? Well, technically, it was a team effort. But if you want to single out one man, it was Robert Oppenheimer. But it wasn't exactly a walk in the park. In fact, when Oppenheimer first learned that the Germans had successfully developed the first nuclear reactor, he told his assistant, "I know we can build them better, and we will build them better, and we'll show them." But then he added, "I don't know whether we ought to do it." And finally, here's one for you. At the end of the war, when the Japanese envoy came to the Americans to surrender, they demanded that the terms of surrender be written on paper and signed by the Americans. This was standard procedure, but the Americans refused, saying that they didn't have time to write it out. Instead, they dictated the terms verbally and the Japanese signed it on the spot. But that wasn't the end of it. When the Japanese delegation returned home, they were arrested and put on trial for signing the document. Because it went against Japanese protocol, they argued that since no Japanese official was present when the document was signed, it should have been rewritten and signed by MacArthur or someone else. But that didn't work, and in the end, all three men were sentenced to death. Well, that's it for today. Thanks for watching! And if you want to see more videos like this, all you have to do is subscribe and come along. We'll see you next time.